All right, a quick video this morning on should we give production access to developers? And this is the beginning of a bad idea. First question is, why do developers need access to a production database? What are the alternatives to this in your environment? For instance, why not build a custom health check that's designed to do quick reads against logging tables to provide insights into issues? A good developer is going to every good developer, I should say, that I've worked with is going to design some type of logging system to log what's happening. So doing a quick read on those tables, a logging table, for those of you who have looked at, let's say, the SQL Server error log, should usually have a date time field because that's when it occurred. It should have the error message. It may have like an error ID or whatnot. But you will have at least two fields, one which is going to be the message and one is going to be the date. So doing a quick read on the last errors in the last, let's say, 10 minutes or 30 minutes or hour is going to be is going to be a very fast query. It's not going to be something that drains a lot of system resources, and it allows you to build a health check around the application. If they need to debug what's happening with an application, then they should, yes, they should have read access to those tables, or there should be a report set up, and the report will have read access to specific objects, and those specific objects are for that report, right? That should be in every environment. Every single company that has a custom application for something should have a custom health check for that something, whatever it is, okay? And they're developers. I mean, developers build stuff. You shouldn't be in tech if you don't want to build stuff, okay? Another alternative here is we can refresh a dev QA pre-prod database instead. If you're going to allow production access to developers, for instance, a read-only, first of all, grant the least amount of access required, but always, always, always review the queries before allowing any of this, especially in heavy OLTP systems. I mean, if the queries are poorly written, they may interrupt something in production, and then you may have other issues that occur, okay? This should be an exception in that it should be rare. So let's go over that. An exception by definition is a rare event. From a probability standpoint, we're talking about an outlier event, right? So this should not be occurring 4 or 5 times a year. That's not an exception. That's actually becoming a regular pattern. This should be something that occurs once, max twice a year. If they are constantly needing access to production, there's just a problem with that team. And you'll know this as a DBA in general. They're just teams that when they release changes, and you get a feel for this, they always have issues. They always need to make last-minute changes. They always have issues. And that is an example that, number one, they're doing too much per release. So it needs to be scaled back. They need to start doing things in smaller chunks because they're not reliable. And number two, that's something to speak to the management and them as well about. Like, this is a constant reoccurring issue. Every single time, that I've been a DBA supporting this team or this team or this team, I have to sit there and we have to do all these on-the-fly changes. And we always run into issues after the fact. That means that they're not going through and doing everything right. Generally what that is, at least I've observed, is that they're not thoroughly testing in dev QA and pre-prod before rolling out to production. Okay? And the fact is those tests in dev QA and pre-prod need to be thorough, and at least one of those 3 environments need to match production to where you can beat it up in the same way you can beat up production, or in the same way that production is going to be beaten up, okay? But this should be an exception to the rule. If they are constantly needing access to production, then there's bigger problems, and that team needs to be evaluated, because that can be an outage for an application, which is then a bigger deal for the company's perspective.